Welcome back, YouTube pipe smokers. Mutton Chop Piper here. Well, today's video is entitled Carbon Cake. Is it really that important? Okay, now this subject I have touched on in one of my previous videos, but today I want to expand on it a little bit, go a little bit further, explain a little bit more about carbon cake and if it's important to maintaining your pipes. Now, carbon cake is, there's carbon in pipe tobacco, and once you start smoking the tobacco, the carbon is released and it is deposited on the inside of your bowl along the walls. Now, it depends on which school of thought you go through, which process you go through, as to how you want to build that cake. In one of my videos, I say that, for a new pipe smoker, it might be, it's okay to start with a quarter of a bowl and go, after 10 smokes or so, go to half a bowl, and then after 10 more smokes, go to a full bowl. And in other videos, I have suggested that you just fill the tobacco to the top and smoke your tobacco all the way to the bottom. You want to make sure that you get that carbon cake all the way from the top all the way to the heel. So what good is carbon cake? What does it do for your pipes? Well, carbon cake provides two main objectives, or two main goals. One, it protects your pipe from getting too hot. It's both things are heat related. One, if you get your bowl too hot, if you smoke it too hot, there is a possibility that you could have what's called a blowout, which means that the actual briar may have a weak spot on the inside, and it could create sort of a hot spot. And the hotter that gets, it starts to burn. And as it burns, it'll burn all the way through to the outside of your pipe, and you'll have what's called a blowout. So the carbon cake that is collected by the inside of your briar, it absorbs that heat so that it protects your briar from being from having any hot spots or places where it could burn through your pipe. And then number two, it helps to cool your smoke. That carbon will draw that heat away from the burning tobacco, and as the smoke travels up to your mouth, it will be cooler because you have that extra layer of heat, what's called a heat sink, something that will draw the heat away from whatever it is that is either burning or running. Computers have heat sinks to where the board gets really hot, the chips get really hot, so that heat sink will draw that heat away so it'll keep them cooler. It's kind of the same process with a pipe. So what other things does it provide? Is that the only reason that you want to have carbon cake? Those are the two main reasons. Now for me, this is only for me, this is just speaking for me. Other people have different experiences with carbon cake. So what I'm about to tell you now is pretty much what happens to me. After I have established a pipe with good carbon cake, I noticed a difference. One, I noticed that I can smoke my pipe a little bit more aggressively. I can smoke it a little bit hotter, yet the tobacco or the smoke remains cool. So that's one advantage. Another advantage is after I have established that carbon cake, it seems like to me the flavor is ramped up. I get a little bit more flavor out of my tobacco, out of the smoke. So I'm not a scientist and I've not done any research, but to me it's clear that that carbon, it will absorb the flavor of the tobacco, the Virginias, Latakias, the Periques, and that's one reason why you want to make sure that that you kind of at least dedicate pipes to a certain blend type of tobacco. So you should have some pipes. So if let's say you like both aromatics and English blends, then you should have some pipes dedicated only to smoking aromatics, and others that are only dedicated to smoking Englishes. Because, like I've said in other videos, if you cross them, if you smoke a little bit of aromatic and then you go to an English, you're going to notice a change in taste, because you're going to ghost, what's called ghosting, that pipe, and it may take 5 to 10 pipe bowlfuls to get rid of that ghost. It'll eventually happen, but why go through that hassle? Why not just have some pipes dedicated to aromatics and some dedicated to English? Now, once you get a nice, good buildup of carbon, you need to cut that carbon down. Now, I will do a video on that when I get a pipe that has enough carbon built up where I need to cut it down. The rule of thumb is about 1/8 of an inch thick, which is about the thickness of a nickel. Here in the United States, a 5-cent piece is called a nickel, and it's got about 1/8 of an inch width. So that's about where you want to keep your carbon cake. Now you have to be careful if you've got a tremendous amount and you cut it down. You got to be very careful, because if you do it too aggressively, it's gonna come away from the wall, and you'll definitely have a hot spot. So you have to be careful of that. Okay, well, so let's review that. That's a little bit more about carbon cake. The thing about carbon cake to me is it's like going on a long trip. If we used to live in North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, which was on the coast, and we'd have to travel 12 hours to get to Kentucky. Well, it was just, when is this trip going to be over? You're just driving and driving and driving, and finally you get there and you're like, all right, I'm there, I've arrived. It's kind of the same concept. You're going to go through a little bit of agony smoking your pipe when you first buy it to break it in. It's going to be hot. You're going to get tongue bite. But just keep in mind the fact that once you do develop that carbon cake, that smoke is going to smooth out. That's another thing that I found about carbon cake, is it seems to smooth out the tobacco. In my opinion, bright Virginias are sharp. I mean, they heat up quick and they'll burn your tongue like no tomorrow. But with a carbon cake, it kind of takes that edge off. It cuts that edge off a little bit and smooths that down to where you can manage it a lot better. So that's another advantage, for me at least, of carbon cake. So again, let's review. Carbon cake is used to protect the inside of your briar bowl from blowouts, and 2, to draw away the heat from the burning tobacco so that you have a cooler smoke. For me, it ramps up the flavor. It 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 makes the flavor a little bit more hearty, a little bit more pungent for me, and also it smooths out some of the little bit harsher blends. Latakia blends, especially Virginia blends. If it's straight Virginia and it's really a bright Virginia and it's sharp and it's hot and it burns my tongue really quick. But with a good carbon cake, I can control it a lot better. All right, well that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And until my next video, I want to wish you and your family happy piping.